We, the American public, got scammed again. You're probably laughing going, well, what is it this time? We're so used to it by now. But anyway, my name is Mackenzie. If you don't know who I am, I've been teaching people how money works for the last 8 years. It's something that's not taught in schools, so most people are financially illiterate, which means they make lots of mistakes when it comes to money, and oftentimes they're taken advantage of. The lack of financial literacy is a huge problem, and I love that we have the solution for it, and it starts with financial education. Today we're talking about how Americans got screwed, and you're going, this time? Yeah, absolutely. We're talking about Social Security. And so if you feel like Social Security is a scam, make sure you hit that like button. It helps with the algorithm. Would really appreciate you for doing that. But if you don't believe that it's a scam, let's kind of talk about this and you can be assessed for your own situation. So doing some research, I went to bankrate.com and basically tried to figure out what the average check was that most people would receive for Social Security. The average check is about $1,437. So if you take that, you multiply it by 12 for the number of months in a year, and then you multiply that over 20 years, basically the average benefit is going to be about $344,800. Now I rounded that to $350,000 just to help them out a little bit. So that means a normal American, if you retire at age 65, you live till age 85, you're going to receive about $350,000 in Social Security, which most people would say, wow, that's really not that bad. I don't really feel like I contributed to it. It's just kind of something that came out of my check. So if you didn't know, it's about 12.4% that comes out of our paycheck. Now, part of that is paid by you, part of that is paid by the employer, but either way, the total amount is 12.4% that comes out of our paychecks. So I also looked up about the average income for an American today, and it's about $40,000. So let's kind of look at this. 12.4% of $40,000 is gonna be about $4,900 some odd dollars. Okay, so let's round that down to about $4,800, which breaks down into $400 a month. So $4,800 would be how much they pay over the entire year. Break that down per month is about $400 per month. So if we take the average person, let's say they start working at 15 and they end up retiring at 65, that's about 50 years that most people will spend in the workforce. And they're gonna pay on average about $400 a month into that account. Now, if you use any type of investment calculator, you put in $400 a month for 50 years at about an 8% rate of return, you'd end up with over $2.7 million. So how is it that through Social Security, if we live the full 20 years into retirement, we'll receive $350,000, but if we were to invest those same exact dollars into an account that just got an 8% rate of return, we would have $2.7 million. So the first question I would have is, well, what happened to the other $2.4 million? Where did it go? Did we just get a terrible percent of interest rate? Did it not grow? Was it not invested properly? What happened to it? My second question would be is if you did accumulate that in your 401k or IRA or Roth or your permanent life insurance policy, well then you would have access to all of that. Or through the course of your life, if you didn't spend it, whatever was left over, let's say you retire at 65, you pass away at 67, whatever's left over of that $2.7 million would be left to your family. So they would at least receive something for that. But what's interesting is with Social Security, if you're receiving Social Security and your wife is receiving Social Security, you basically get the better of the two. So if she's getting $1,400 a month and you are getting $1,500 a month, when you pass away, she gets that $100 in difference for a total of $1,500 a month. So what happens to the rest of that money that was in the Social Security fund for that person? You would think they would get the accumulation of those two, the $1,400 and the $1,500 for $2,900, but that's not true. That's not what happens with Social Security. And my third question would be is, but why are we forced to actually use it? It's almost like a pyramid scheme where the newest people have to make sure that they're paying in so that the people who have been around the longest can start getting their payments out with no real understanding of where the money goes, how is it being invested, and you're legally required to pay into it, otherwise the government will come after you for not paying your taxes. So this is the general challenge that most people have when we talk about giving the government more money and having them fix things. The challenge being is they can't even do things right like Social Security. Where does that other $2.4 million go? Does it just disappear? here? Where's the accounting on that? And this is why I say the government is one of the main reasons why they don't want us to have more financial education. I talked about in one of my previous videos labeled "They Want You Broke," where I was talking about some of the entities that want you to be poor. If we were more financially literate, we would be asking the government more questions. Where is this money going? Why are we forced to contribute to that? Instead, since most people are financially illiterate, they don't ask any questions about it. And then when the government asks for more money because they do such a good job with the other money that we give them, most people are very hesitant about that because there is so much waste. And waste isn't necessarily always a bad thing. It's obviously feeding the goose that lays the golden eggs. We live in the most free country on the planet, so there's costs to that. Now, obviously, it's going to overeat. I think we would all judge and say we overeat a little bit, and that's okay, but to what extent is okay? And the challenge is, as you become financially literate, you start asking these types of questions. The challenge is most people have no understanding. So if you agree with me now that Social Security is a scam, make sure you click that thumbs up button and hit the subscribe as well. Appreciate you guys, and we'll see you later.